all to subscribe my YouTube channel. So we'll start our lecture, animal behavior. Basically, several questions arises while learning the animal behavior, or some key point that we have to keep in the mind while learning the animal behavior. Firstly, what exactly count as a behavior? What trigger behavior? Are they hardwired in animal gene or learned based on the experiences? Okay. Animal behavior includes all the way the animal interact with other organism and the physical environment. Behavior can also be defined as a change in the activity of an organism in response to a stimuli, an external or internal clue, or combination of the clue. To fully understand the behavior, we want to know what causes it and how it is developed in an individual and how it is benefited to an organism and how it is evolved. Some behavior are innate or genetically hardwired, while others are learned or developed through the experiences. In many cases, behavior have both innate and learned component. Behavior is shaped by a natural selection. Many behavior directly increases the animal fitness, that is, they help it to survive and to reproduce. Do the squirrel in our neighborhood bury a corn underground? Does your cat started moving around the time you usually feed her? Do you started hanging around the kitchen when it is close to your dinner time? If you all noticing any of the above thing, I mostly congratulate all you that you have made your first observation in behavioral biology. These are all example of animal behavior. You and I count as an animal too. In fact, these behavior are just a tiny sample of and this amazing diverse behavior we can see in this whole nature. We could ask what behavior is used for, but it might be better to ask what isn't it used for. Animals have behavior for almost every unmanageable aspect of life, from finding food to wing a mate, or for fighting of revival to rising of offspring. Some of these behavior are innate or handwired in an organism genes. This is true of the squirrel and its corn. Other behavior are learned, such as our tendency to hanging around the kitchen at our dinner time, or ability to read the word the present on the screen. In today's lecture, we will take a closer look at the animal behavior and how it is studied and how it is evolved and how it is can run the gamete from the handwired to a learn. So broadly speaking about animal behavior, the animal behavior includes all the way that animal interact with the other member of the species, with the organism of the other species, and with their environment. Behavior can also be defined more narrowly as change in the activity of an organism in response to a stimuli, an external or internal clue, or a combination of clue. For example, your dog might started drooling in response to a sight of food. Here, the drooling of a dog is a change in activity, and the food is the stimuli. Behavior biology is the study of biological and evolutionary basis for the behavior. Modern behavior biology draw work from the related but distinct discipline of ethology and comparative psychology. Ethology is a field of basic biology like ecology or the genetics. It's focused on the behavior of diverse organisms in their nature, in their natural environment. Comparative psychology is an extension of the work done in the human psychology, and it focuses largely on the few species studied in a lab setting. Behavioral biology also draw on many related areas of biology, including genetics, anatomy, physiology, evolutionary biology, and of course neurobiology, which traces a neural circuit that underline the animal behavior. So, while learning or to learn behavioral biology, every ethologist must understand the four different questions. The Nicholas Timbergen was a Dutch ornithologist or the bird biologist who studied the behavior and is now considered as one of the founder of the field of the ethology. Based on his own research, Timbergen proposes four basic questions that help in understanding the animal behavior. Let's look at this question using the production of some of the zebrafish, a common singing bird, as an example, which is shown in the picture. What are the different four questions that Timbergen arises while learning the animal behavior? What are the causes? That let's see, one by one. The first is causation, or what caused the behavior, what triggers the behavior, and what body part functions and molecules are involved in carrying out it. For example, let's of the singing bird. Singing is triggered in zebrafinch by a social clue, such as the proximate of the potential mate, as well as the appropriate hormonal states. The ability to produce song is influenced by a male hormone and occur mainly in male bird. Song are produced when the air sac flow from the air sac bronchi from the organ called as syrinx. Certain part of the brain control the song production and are well developed in male zebrafish. Okay, so this is the first question, the what cause that behavior. Another one is the development. How do the behavior develop in an animal or in? It is the behavior present early in the life. Does it can change over the course of the organism lifetime, and what experiences are necessary for its development? Let's see the same example of the male zebrafinch. First listen to song of the nearby male of their species, particularly their father or their parent, and then started to practicing singing. By adulthood, male zebrafinch have learned to produce own song which are unique but often have similarity to those of their parent. Once a finch has a perfect in singing, the song remain fixed for the lifetime. Yes. Another that question that's solved by the Timbergen or the Timbergen have the why, what are the functions or the adaptive value of that behavior, and how does the behavior affect the fitness of an organism, and that help him that having chance of survival or the reproduction. We will have the same example. Singing help the male zebrafish to attract the mate, increasing the chance that they will be reproduced. Singing is the part of an elaborated courtship ritual and entice the female to choose the male. Right? So this is the function or this is the adaptive value of that having the behavior. And the last or the fourth question, that is how that behavior is evolved, or what is evolution. Evolutionary part is about that. How does the behavior compare to those of the related species? Why might it have evolved as it did? Okay, so all the species of the bird can make vocal sound, but only those in suborder Passeri are the songbirds. Relatively to the zebrafish, other songbird species differ in the timing of their listening and practicing phases. The plasticity of song over their lifetime, the extent to which the song is similar among the individual of the species, and they and the way singing is used, for example for the defense or for the territory versus the countership of the mate. So that this is how the that behavior evolve in an organism. So what clue that trigger a behavior? At its core, an animal behavior is a response to an external or internal clue. Through the behavior, animal can act on the information they receive in a way that will hopefully favor their survival and reproductive success. So what kind of clue can trigger behavior? In some cases, the clues are largely external. In case of the hibernation, an animal goes into a den or burrow, reduces metabolic rate and enter a state of inactivity during the winter, conserving resources while conditions are very harsh and food is scarce. The environmental clue often trigger hibernation behavior. Brown bear enter their den in the hibernation when the temperature drops to the 0 degree Celsius and snow falls begins. In case of the starvation, it is a similar activity like to that of the hibernation, but it's occur during the summer months. Some desert animal starved in a response to a dry condition. This shift helped them to survive the harshest month of the year. The snail shown in the photo blow to climb to the top of the fence post to establish. Right. Another thing that trigger the behavior, that is the migration. So the migration is a behavior in which animal move from one location to the another location in a seasonal pattern. Monarch butterfly living in the northern and central United States migrate to the Mexico in the autumn, where they spend the winter. An environmental clue that trigger the autumn migration, including the air temperature, dry length, and food availability. In other cases, the clue for a behavior may be the internal. Some behavior occur in a cardiac rhythm, many that they are triggered by the animal internal body clock. For example, you people or myself, we tend to wake up and become active at roughly the same time each day. As you may have discovered, if you have ever taken a long flight, your body alarm clock will be still go off. At the same time, even the external clue changes, which is what a clue or a claw the chat like. It is common for the behavior to be triggered by a combination of internal and external clue interaction. Mating behavior may be triggered in an animal only when it is in the right hormonal state, and internal clue and when it is see a member of the opposite sex, and external clue. So these are the different clues that have been triggered in the learning or during the animal behavior. So we will have a look over the what are the innate and what are the learned behavior, or the innate versus the learned behavior, when we are trying to understand how a behavior is developed and how it is arose evolutionarily. One important question is whether the behavior is genetically programmed or acquired through the experience. Let's consider about the innate behavior are the genetically handwired and are inherited by an organism from its parent, while the learned behavior are not inherited. They develop during the organism lifetime as a result of their experience and environmental influence. Behavioral biology have found that many behavior have both the component learn as well as the innate component. So it is generally most accurate for us to ask what extent of behavior is innate or learned. So we will look what are the mostly innate behavior, or partly innate behavior, or partly learned behavior, or the mostly learned behavior. Okay, so what about the mostly innate behavior? The innate behavior are the same example of behavior that are rarely or truly handwired. This behavior takes place in a highly predictable way in a response to the right stimuli, even if the organism have never before encountered the stimuli. For example, an adult salamander will swim perfectly if it is placed in the water, even if it is never saw the water when it was young and has never watched another salamander to swim. In this case, the behavior of the swimming can only be explained as something that genetically programmed in that salamander. Similarly, you or we human being will rapidly jerk our hand away if we touches a hot object, or we prick a pin, then we reflect our hand, and this is a response, is the reflex that's handwired in the circuit of our sensory and motor neurons, and does even involve our brain. So this is about the mostly the innate behavior, that is genetically programmed or genetically handwired. So about the partially innate or the partially learned behavior, in such cases an organism is genetically programmed to develop a behavior, but the form the behavior takes place depend upon the individual experience. So we will have one example as a learning of a song in a zebrafish, that is we have taken in the previously the song by a zebrafinch or other songbird. As we saw above, all male zebrafinch will begin listening to and learning song at about the same age, and practicing and producing a song at the slightly lateral age. Although this pattern is genetically determined, the exact feature of this song a bird sing will depend on the song it's heard during its learning period. Okay, so another more familiar example is language acquisition in the human. Babies are programmed for language learning, but they will but which language they will learn depend on what they were exposed to during their plasticity or the plastic or the formative period, correct? So this example of the songbird the above, and our most familiar example of the babies and their language learning is about the is for the partly innate and partly learned behavior. So in case of mostly learned behavior are largely depend on the experiences. They are learned and cannot be fully explained by genetical programming. If a rat receives food as a reward each time, if it push a lever, it will be quickly learn to push the lever in order to get the food. Similarly, if a cow get an electric shock each time it pushes against an electric fence, like the ones below, it will be rapidly learn to avoid the fence, pushing a lever to get reward, and avoiding electric fence are not handwired in the rat and cow, but are instead learned behavior the animal develop through their experiences. Yeah, this all about the mostly innate behavior, partially innate and partially learned, and mostly the learned behavior. So in our next video we will take or we will discuss in detail the learned behavior and the innate behavior. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe my YouTube channel.